Over the past couple of days, we've been keeping an eye on the Gulf of Mexico for a potential tropical cyclone to develop, and today things have been rapidly changing, and now we have to watch the Gulf of Mexico like a hawk. And our area of interest actually looks very interesting. This is over in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. This has been named Invest 92L. That means that the National Hurricane Center is investigating this area for our next potential tropical cyclone. And right now, there's a lot of towering convection in the southwest Gulf, and honestly, it might not look super concerning right off the bat, but the problem is this is going to be entering into a more favorable environment over the next 24 to 48 hours, where we could see this intensify into a tropical storm, and it might become something even bigger than that as it continues to move to the east. We need to keep a very close eye on this over the next several days. Now, this is the latest forecast from the National Hurricane Center. This red blob in the Gulf of Mexico is our area of interest for the United States, and notice how this is pointing basically right at Florida. So that's where we're really watching for the greatest impacts out of whatever develops here. Currently has an 80% chance of developing over the next several days and about a 50% chance of developing between now and the end of the weekend. We'll talk more about these other areas in the eastern Atlantic later in the forecast, but we do have Hurricane Kirk, Hurricane Leslie, and then another little area development off the coast of Africa that might develop as we go later into the upcoming week. Overall convection with Invest 92L is pretty impressive thus far. We have a lot of towering cumulonimbus clouds here in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. We could make a comparison here to what Francine looked like only about a month ago. That one went towards Louisiana, made landfall as a category 2. Looked pretty similar in my opinion to what we're right now seeing with this Invest. So definitely something to keep in mind here. Doesn't mean we're going to see a category 2 hurricane, but I do see similarities here. And the other thing to keep in mind is that this system is going to spend a lot more time in the Gulf of Mexico compared to what we saw with Francine. In terms of intensity that this system could achieve over the next few days is very split between computer models. I would say about 50% of computer models have this as a more intense hurricane, potentially category 2, 3 level hurricane going towards Florida, and then about 50% of them have it more as a tropical storm or a very low-end hurricane. So let's kind of break down the scenarios and the what ifs. What if this becomes a big hurricane, or what if this is just a tropical storm? This is the GFS model on the most recent run, and this model has it rapidly intensifying as early as Monday evening back over in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, just to the north of the Yucatan. The biggest thing that we are going to have to watch for, in my opinion, is going to be the track of where this goes. If this system is able to go more to the north, more towards Tampa, I see this being a more intense hurricane going towards Florida. If it takes a more southerly path, it will more than likely be a weaker tropical system, more than likely a tropical storm moving towards Florida. So keep that in mind when we're looking at these two different computer models. The GFS model eventually, as we go into Tuesday evening, has this as a category 2+ hurricane moving towards the state of Florida, and then eventually as we go into Wednesday morning, it has it making landfall on the west coast of Florida, right in the Tampa Bay area. Now obviously this looks really bad on paper, but this is just one computer model run. It's not necessarily a guarantee to happen. This is the only run so far that the GFS model has been showing even signs of a hurricane. However, there is more backup to this that I'm going to show you in a moment that does indicate that this will at least probably be a strong tropical storm or even a hurricane upon landfall in Florida. Now, the biggest thing that I think this event is going to produce is rainfall, and the GFS model currently indicating substantial rain across much of Florida right now near I-4 and also northbound. The GFS model indicating the worst rain between Tampa and Daytona Beach, upwards of 6 to 12 inches of rain. And by the way, Florida does not need any more rain, so this would not be a good thing by any means for the state of Florida. The European model is coming in on the weaker side of things. This one has it intensifying as we go into Monday into a tropical storm, but does not have it necessarily rapidly intensifying. And there is a reason for that. There is some wind shear here in the Gulf of Mexico. It's not a perfect sort of forecast where, you know, Helene didn't really have any sort of wind shear or dry air that happened with that. This system in particular, depending on where it goes, could make a big difference between having a lot of wind shear or having very little to no wind shear. European model, though, has this coming into Florida as well on Wednesday morning as a tropical storm, but on the higher side of things. The biggest thing I think this is going to produce, no matter if it develops, is going to be the amount of rain that it is going to dump. I think that's going to be the biggest problem for Florida no matter what here, but I do think storm surge and hurricane force winds are both possibilities, especially if this is able to rapidly intensify. But Wednesday morning, we're talking about a surge of rain across much of Florida before that moves out as we go into Thursday. The European model still showing a lot of rain as well. Again, notice that is going to probably be the biggest thing out of the system, no matter what it becomes, is going to be the potential for really significant rainfall. But but if this is able to maintain a hurricane intensity, we could see some storm surge, especially on the west coast of Florida. Now again, there's nothing formed yet here in the Gulf of Mexico, so all of this is still very uncertain at this point. I just want to make sure that you guys are all alert across the state of Florida for this system, because this could definitely be something that could produce some pretty big impacts. Now we're going to show you a blend of different computer model ensemble members. Essentially what this is going to show you is a bunch of different models all embedded into one graphic that show you both the intensity and track of where this system could go. And this is again the GEFS ensembles. As we go into Monday night, a lot of them have this intensifying at least into a tropical storm. So at this point, a tropical storm very likely for the state of Florida as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday. By the time we go into Tuesday night, there is a pretty large spread still on exactly where this system will be located. The best news that we would be basically getting this week is if this is further to the east Tuesday night, let's say just west of Florida, I think that this will be a much weaker tropical system. But if it is able to stay slow here in the Gulf of Mexico through Tuesday night, it would have a much better chance of intensifying, with a lot of these ensemble members bringing this to at least a category 1 hurricane as we go into Tuesday night. And then by Wednesday morning would be the day of landfall, more than likely, depending on, things could still change, but a lot of the ensembles have this making landfall sometime either Wednesday morning or during the afternoon. Many of them are varying, anywhere from the Big Bend of Florida back through Tampa and even closer to Cape Coral, where there could be a category 1 or 2 hurricane upon landfall in Florida. So we're gonna have to watch this again very, very closely, because the trends are not looking really great. The EPS ensemble members, which is the European blend of ensemble members, also indicating a very large variety of what we could see in terms of intensity, anywhere from a tropical storm all the way up to a category 2 or 3 hurricane. There are a couple outliers that bring this to a cat 5 or something like that, but again, there's really not much skill in forecasting that this far out, especially since we don't have anything that's developed. But again, that's an outlier. That's not what I'm forecasting by any means right now, but I do think that there is a very strong chance that we'll at least have a tropical storm in Florida on Wednesday. If not, a hurricane does appear on the more, at least middle ground side. I would give it about 50-60% chance right now, but that will probably keep going up as long as the system does organize and develop. Now, the tropical activity is not done there. We also have Hurricane Kirk, which continues to move to the north in the Atlantic Ocean. This is what it looks like on infrared imagery. That eye that it initially had, and it looked like a Cat 4, Cat 5 type hurricane only a day ago, it has begun to kind of go away. We're not really looking at as intense of a system. This is the remaining track for Hurricane Kirk. It is expected to stay as a major hurricane through Saturday night, and then eventually as we go into Sunday into Monday, it will start to weaken as it moves off to the northeast. But this will still be a post-tropical cyclone for the United Kingdom and as well as France as we go into Wednesday. So definitely something to watch for if you're back over in Europe as that continues to move in that direction. We also have Hurricane Leslie back over in the main development region. This is expected to stay as a hurricane over the next several days. There was originally forecasted to be a major hurricane out of this by Tuesday. They have dropped that just a little bit. There is still a chance that this becomes a major hurricane, but for the time being, it is at least expected to be a higher end category 2 hurricane as we go into Monday into Tuesday. As of now, not expected to impact the United States. There is a low chance, though, it could drift a little bit further to the west of this line, the cone of uncertainty. We could see some impacts to maybe the upper Lesser Antilles, maybe even Bermuda, but for now, I'm not super concerned about those areas. Just stay weather aware, I'd say, in those areas in case this does end up taking a bit more of a turn to the west. But for right now, moving to the northwest, not an impact for land at this time. Until we get something that develops here in the Gulf of Mexico, like a tropical storm or even a tropical depression, we're going to be kind of in limbo mode, but we're going to continue to have at least daily updates on this. So make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, and also make sure to click the bell icon down below so you're notified with the latest videos. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.